On September 25th, Oswald disappeared from New Orleans. Where he was that night is still one of the intriguing mysteries of his life. There is testimony that sometime between 7 and 10 p.m., he made a call to a leader of the Socialist Labor Party in Houston. The Warren Commission believed Oswald took a bus from New Orleans to Houston, but there are no records to confirm that conclusion. Meanwhile, more than 200 miles away in Dallas, 3 men, 2 Latins and an American, showed up unexpectedly at the doorstep of 3 young Cuban exiles whose father headed an anti-Castro organization. Sylvia and Annie Odio granted Frontline this rare interview.
One night I opened the door for 3 men that came to see one of my sisters. I opened the door, they were in a small hallway with bright lights overhead.
The taller man introduced the other 2 men. Leopoldo, he said that was his name. He introduced the American who was in the middle as Leon Oswald, and he introduced the one that seemed Mexican and spoke with a Mexican accent as Angelo.
And are you quite clear about it, that when those men visited your apartment, the American was introduced as Oswald?
The American was introduced as Leon Oswald. That would always be in my mind very clearly.
According to the Odio sisters, Leon Oswald said nothing, as Leopoldo and Angelo asked for help raising money for the anti-Castro cause. Suspicious, the Odio sisters declined, and a half hour later the 3 men drove away.
I think it was 2 days after that, Leopoldo, who had clearly a Cuban accent, called me on the phone, and he tried to be very friendly on the phone with me and was trying to sell me the idea of the American. The first thing that he asked was, what did you think of the American? And actually, I had not formed any opinion of the American at the time. He said, well, you know, he is, we don't know what to make of him. He's kind of loco. He's been telling us the Cubans should have murdered or should have assassinated President Kennedy right after the Bay of Pigs, and they didn't have any guts to do it. They should do it. And it was a very easy thing to do at the time.
But author Gerald Posner believes Sylvia Odio is mistaken about the date on which the 3 men appeared at her door.
It's physically impossible for Lee Harvey Oswald to have been at the Odio residence on the days that she describes. She says that he was either there on the 26th or 27th of September, a Thursday or Friday, maybe at the very earliest, Wednesday the 25th.
The reason that I remember so clearly was because that same night, or I think either that night or the night afterwards, I wrote my father. And I also told a friend of mine who was my father confessor about the visit.
Odio talked to Father Walter McCann after the phone call from Leopoldo.
I think I can pin a date to this conversation with Sylvia. It was the day in which I spoke to her about her attending a charity event at which Janet Lee was going to appear in Dallas.
If Father McCann is correct about Janet Lee, then the 3 men must have visited the Odios 2 days earlier on September 25th, the only night Oswald could possibly have been in Dallas.
They were trying to sell me the American because they spoke that he was a marksman, that he had been an ex-Marine, and that he was someone who could be used and who could be an asset to any organization.
Leopoldo and Angelo have never been identified, and the meaning of this incident remains elusive. If Oswald was there, was he infiltrating another anti-Castro group, or was someone setting him up to take the blame for the Kennedy assassination?